Thank you everyone for being here this afternoon. Welcome to our LinkedIn Live. You're joined by myself, Suzy Reid, one of the senior learning consultants within Umbrella Training.
And I'm Freddie Speed, another learning consultant, not quite as senior as Suzy though.
I'm sure you are. So we're going to be going through a little bit of a discussion about personal development within apprenticeships and within the workplace, and how they can support you, as well as the importance of feedback, giving and receiving feedback, and also looking at mentoring. And why mentoring is so important, especially when it comes to you doing an apprenticeship. So Freddie, I'm going to ask you a few questions. Hope you're ready for these. How have you planned for your own personal development?
So I suppose coming out of university, I had no idea exactly what I wanted to do. So I took a lot of self-reflection time to figure out exactly how and where I wanted to develop. And when I realized that hospitality was such an attractive industry to be working in, I joined an employer that were facilitating apprenticeships, and it was about having those very frank and honest conversations with the HR departments, your line managers, expressing the ambitions that you have and finding ways to get there within that industry. And so the apprenticeship schemes that were on offer I saw as a really genuinely valuable way of progressing in hospitality. So it's about having that personal development that you're looking for, is finding the best route for you. And it might not always be apprenticeship, but because of how broad they can be and how much they can affect your personal development as well as your work development, they are often probably the most valuable way of progressing through your trainings. And it's about having that sort of the flexibility to take on other opportunities as they might come and that might benefit your career, but having that sort of rigidity and stick to itness to see through the apprenticeship and learn as much as you can. And I found that with those personal development goals that I set myself, using the SMART goals that was taught very early on with my apprenticeship has really helped to be able to see through. And I completed my first apprenticeship, and within 6 months I had been promoted twice from head waiter to restaurant manager. And that was I put that down to the learnings that I had from the apprenticeship.
Fantastic. You can see your passion within the hospitality industry. I can see coming through, as well as the way you wanted to develop yourself and the people you got involved with to support you on that journey, which is just fantastic. And that's what everyone should be doing. You're not there on your own. You have a team around you to be able to support you, with your own personal development. Fabulous. So thinking about, how do you know what you need to be better at? So how would you know? You spoke a little bit about self-reflection. What about a bit of looking at emotional intelligence? How can that support you on knowing what you need to know within the workplace and how you're going to get there?
I think in regards to emotional intelligence, I think stress and understanding the stresses that you have in your life or that other people might have in theirs as well really helps to understand how you can be better at coping with those and how you might help others as well. So if I take the example of a stress that I've got an assignment during a week and it's causing me a lot of stress, I know that the thing that I'm need to be better at is time management and being proactive at doing those assignments a bit earlier so that then it's not a stress. And I think the way that those you might not always realize how those stresses can be resolved, and it's about having those communications where appraisals are so important, and apprenticeships, you have a quarterly review with your manager, and these are the perfect times for those sort of stresses and concerns can be really actioned upon and mapped out, and you can figure out exactly what needs to be done and how you can help others in the same situation, and it's all, it all sort of comes back in to one place. It's all from the same area.
Absolutely, fantastic. Thank you. What about feedback? How do you get feedback? How do you ask for feedback? And do you like getting feedback?
I didn't ever ask for it. I went to university and I just sort of did the work and didn't look at the feedback. And then and I had never really considered to be that important. I'd never really seen the context around it. And then again, as soon as I think the first session on that we had with the apprenticeships, a lot of it centered on how important feedback is for everyone. So since then, it's so ingrained on the apprenticeship scheme that it becomes so part of your culture in the way that you work, offering other people constructive feedback and asking for it back. I think one of the things that is really ingrained in you is that 360 feedback is so important. You can't just be looking at what your boss thinks of you and how you're doing. You have to be looking at your peers, your customers, the people that your subordinates, other departments in the business. You've got to be able to get the whole picture for the feedback to be as constructive as possible. And now, the way that I've always worked has been to be very open with everyone else, very constructive with feedback, and ask for it regularly, so that no gaps are missed and no holes are left to get bigger and fester.
Yeah, brilliant. One of the main things that we go through within most of the apprenticeships is how to get and gather that 360-degree feedback, because it's so important to your progression. If you're looking at succession planning, all that kind of stuff, doesn't matter what level you're at, you need to look at that 360-degree review, because getting that information from your peers is so important.
Because if you're the golden child in the eyes of your boss, but all of your colleagues, you could get promoted, but you don't have their support, and you won't be able to be an effective manager or leader in that organization.
Fantastic, brilliant. What about a personal SWOT analysis? Have you ever done one of those before, and have you seen kind of the benefits of it?
Yes. Again, at university, I was taught about SWOT, and you're just taught to very much just write a SWOT, and it's a list there, and then that's it. You're just taught the model. The apprenticeships, it's such an easy and effective model that is so useful. That and umbrella. I don't know about the other apprenticeships, but in apprenticeships in general, I imagine using those SWOT analyses and then contextualizing them within the business. And you can see my communication is excellent, but my time management is poor, and you actually figure out how you can make them better, I always like to try and improve my strengths as well as my weaknesses, and you can explore those opportunities and threats, and you can, in a business setting, when you start contextualizing them, they become so much more useful and are really as soon as you understand it and you start looking at them and updating them and going back to them, and suddenly they're really useful in developing yourself, others, the business, your training styles, all of these things. So yes, I've done many SWOT analysis in my time, and I still use them very much today, outside of a hospitality setting, but in a different way. And that's what they're there for, to be contextualized.
Absolutely. And it's one of my, when I do get my apprentices to do their SWOT analysis, again, from most levels, they're all doing a SWOT analysis. And it's so interesting to go through it with them and to see from kind of the start, when they started doing that, and the strengths that they build on, and those weaknesses that we kind of overcome. And you can see I get them to at the end to do another SWOT analysis and see what's changed. So it's really great to have a look at the beginning and the end.
That development. I also think, because I remember with my apprenticeship that we actually got my manager to do one for me as well. Yeah. And again, having that feedback, a form of feedback, but at university it wasn't a concept that was introduced that someone else could do it for you, and that builds onto your own one. And, you know, it goes back to Johari's window, where you can start seeing other people see about you,
what they see about you, and how they, you know, feedback about you, and what, you know, what you can do and build upon yourself. Fabulous. So we're coming to the last kind of question here. So what about a mentor? So we're talking about mentoring, because obviously that's so important within the apprenticeships, and for when the apprentices come on board. So how have you ever asked for a mentor? And how do you know that you're matching with the right mentor for you, for what you need from them?
So with umbrella training, we sort of we require the learners to have a mentor, and I think that that's absolutely correct, because without that mentor in an apprenticeship, you know, just getting things like off the job hours is so much harder. You know, contextualizing the learnings from a lesson and putting them into practice, and having that sort of freedom and safety to be able to experiment with, you know, leadership styles and all of that is fundamental. In terms of finding the right one, you know, I think it's really important that you have a work mentor that is looking after that side of the apprenticeship and helping you to get through it. After that, you know, you have to sort of use what you consider to be most important to you in finding the right mentor. You know, it doesn't have to be at work. I think, you know, that one should be there and needs to be there for the apprenticeship. But in terms of your personal development, which, you know, apprenticeships are aiming to really improve upon, you can look outside your workplace, you can look within your family, you can look within your friends, you can look, and it's about those areas that you are struggling with personally, and, you know, and finding someone that is there to support, listen, feedback, genuinely, you know, invest in you, not financially, but invest, you know, their network, their knowledge, their helpfulness, their all of these things. And whether that, if that is at work, that is fantastic. But it might not necessarily be your line manager. It might be someone from a completely different department.
Yeah.
So it's about matching those values that you hold most dear, and seeing someone that is exerting those values to a higher standard, a higher level than yourself, and that you can aim towards. I think it's really important that a mentor is someone that is, it seems out of reach in terms of how they operate, but actually they want to bring you up to their level rather than keep you down.
Absolutely. And what about yourself? Have you ever had a mentor yourself? And what were the benefits you gained from having a mentor?
Yeah, so as I say, I had one for my apprenticeship, and they really, you know, they really helped me to get through my apprenticeship and to make sure that I understood all my learning properly. After I'd finished that apprenticeship, I think it's really important that you still have a mentor once you've finished. This is why I think it's worth exploring outside of that work one anyway. When I started a new job, and my boss really took me under his wing, you know, described himself as a mentor. So I was very lucky in terms of, you know, it was very obvious. And he was phenomenal. You know, that safety net around working, you know, I was in quite a high position, and if I messed up, it would be a big deal. But knowing that I had his support, and he taught me everything that he knew. He would stay behind for a couple of hours after his very long shifts to make sure that I understood exactly what I needed to do. He took me outside of work and helped me, you know, really build a passion for learning development, because it never ends, and no one should ever consider their learning and development to be finished, because nobody is the perfect person. You know, you look at Gordon Ramsay in the kitchen, you know, he's got a 3-star Michelin restaurant that's been 3 stars for 20 years, and he's still going over to places like Croatia and Venezuela to learn about their cooking. So you should never consider it to be finished, and I think that's why it's important to be looking out for these mentors and grab them when you can.
Fantastic. I agree. You know, I've always had a mentor throughout my learning, which is continuing on in my later years. I will always learn. I just think it's such a benefit for everybody, especially on the apprenticeship. Freddie, thank you so much for your time today. My God, so much information that you've, and I hope everyone has found that really, really useful. Please let us know if you want any further information. Visit our website, contact Umbrella Training, because we are here to support anything you need to know about apprenticeships, about learning, about development. We are here to help. Freddie, any last thoughts?
I just echoing exactly what you said. You know, we are so excited about building up professionals in this industry, and you know, other industries as well. But it's about what we love most in this world is teaching and developing, and you know, giving those learnings to other people. And we want to support people as much as we can in any way that we can. So yeah, please do get in touch if you think that an apprenticeship could be something that you should consider.
Fantastic. Brilliant. Thank you, everybody.